But what I'm showing you here is the actual product schedule from Bank West, which is the PDS that's available on their website, which you can see there. So this is live showing you a product schedule of the bank's bank account. There is no other product schedule. So the previous collection of product schedules and terms and conditions for the use of their bank accounts is all collected into this very simple comic. Now I say it's simple, but a bit like Mark Twain, you have no idea how complex this simplicity really was to create. So just look at how simple it is. Now here's my fine print whisper. I'm going to make sense of all the bank stuff for you. Okay, great. What is it for me? And there's a little conversation between Brandon, their typical customer, and the female bank advisor. So is this where all my banking info is? Yep. And there are some other documents as well. Have a look at these. And then this blackboard summarizes approximately 3 pages of clauses around requirements for opening an account with simple visuals around what's needed. You know, real person, age 11 or older. You can't have more than 10 accounts, no minimum opening deposit, joint accounts, and no credit interest. All of that. And then there's even room for a stupid joke about being a real person. Haha, I hope so. Then all the different ways to access your money, which was a separate document, now all compressed into a panel in this comic. The fees and charges, the F word, as they very humorously call it in this product schedule, what they are, and other fees that you might find in the guide to banking fees, but that tend to not be relevant for this contract. And then the halo ring and all the different aspects, how does that work? Then there are some on the way out terms about the mortgage offsets. And then there's the financial claim scheme. You know, instead of having a dispute resolution clause, no, if things go wrong, then, you know, we're just interrupting this message. Note how we cunningly sit it outside the conversation by having it externally addressed. So how to lodge a complaint under the financial services scheme. And then here's the number you can call if you've got any more questions. Bam, that is a product schedule. Now, the fact that it's a bank is, of course, super interesting because most people will know that in the 70s, banks had deliberate policies of putting fine print into contracts to try and hide terms from its consumers. But a few years ago here in Australia, the Royal Commission very publicly spanked all the banks for being not transparent and for not being very clear about all their terms and conditions. And so we were very fortunate on the project that we were able to sort of handpick the bank that we wanted to work with, because a lot of them wanted to work with us, and create this beautiful document as an easy transaction account product schedule, which has gone through the Australian Securities Exchange Commission ASIC and is an approved financial document. So for the sight impaired, you'll get a description of what's happening in the images and the exchange, so the narrative of the voices.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to ask you, how do you handle visual contracts like this for sight impaired? And it'll be like an audio describing it?
Yeah, so that's different. So different contracts will be dealt with in different ways. Some of them might have a braille description of the images and what's going on. Some of them might have an audio version. Some of them have much more integrated imagery, like here. And so the narrative and the exchange is sort of, I think, important. And some of them will have very simple images that don't necessarily need to be described as part of the contract. So yeah, it's very different from contract to contract. We've worked on dozens of these projects now over the last 8 years. We have a lot of really interesting, very different contracts to share. The style, the visual, the colors, the profiling, the dialogue, the approach. I mean, this is what we'd call a conversation with the removal of fourth wall. The removal of fourth wall being the occasional, so looking straight to camera and explaining things to you as the reader. So it's a combination of those two, but we have lots of different approaches. The idea is to make it engaging, to make you want to read it. And it seems to be working. I mean, I used to say when we were working on this, that throughout the life of this project, we hadn't had any disputes, so we still weren't sure how the courts would address these comic book contracts. But now that we were rolling out with banks, we were sure to get some disputes because they had so many disputes every year. But this has been out now for 2 years nearly, and we still don't have any disputes. Not only that, but they've reported to us that they have had to relocate a large division of their customer complaints department, because when you manage expectations very clearly, you don't get as many complaints. because people understand their accounts. They take the time to read it, they understand it, they can remember it, because the combination of images and colors and words actually help the mnemonic technique. And it's simple and it's not in legalese. So this is just one way of trying to humanize law by making a product schedule and the terms and conditions of a bank account much more accessible.
So do you have lawyers and artists working together to create it? So if I'm a lawyer working at a law firm, I'm like, wow, that's great. I would love to do this. How would you suggest going about getting started?
So there's lots of different ways in which the project has worked with law firms, and there isn't just one formula. So sometimes we get a contract with a law firm who is saying, we have a client who wants this, will you consult with us? And we say, yeah, we're happy to help consult. We have certain things that we do, but no project has ever been the same. So we'll do things like help them with the silhouetting, the value system, and communicating very clearly and precisely what their contractual relationship is about. We will consult with them on the actual pain points of the contracts, and we will try to make it very simple that way. But we can also create it for them. My husband runs alternativecontracting.biz. You're very welcome to head over there and have a look at his contracts. But he has commercial solutions to the contracts that we've already tried and tested through research. He's quite happy to use people from my team, and then they moonlight